Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Quazar49 and you might not recognise where I'm standing right now. Well, seeing as today's video is the first of the new year and I'll be exploring a past attraction, I thought you might like to see where everything goes once it's finished at Vision Park. I mean, have you never wondered where all the old attractions go? They don't just get deleted from the universe, this isn't some kind of game. But anyway, welcome to the VPAW, also known in full as the Vision Park Attractions Warehouse. This is a place where all the old attractions either lie resting, waiting to return, or just to be taken apart so we can use parts of them in newer attractions. And that's what we're taking a look at today. One of Vision Park's temporary attractions that was highly anticipated for the 2018 Halloween season, Amusement. Amusement was a haunted house attraction that was only open during the 2018 Halloween update, featuring a multitude of rooms and strange visuals. This was less of a traditionally scary experience and more of a psychological one. The main aim of the house was to tell the backstory of Mr. Smiley, the main coaster of the park, but no one could really work it out. With hindsight, I'll admit that a lot of the time, new attractions are a hit or miss business. Looking at you, Darren Brown! I waited over 120 minutes for that! But anyway, the main scare factor of Amusement and the overall park was that the scare actors would have full control. When I do horror, I like to push boundaries, trying not to rely on jump scares which are extremely easy just to slap everywhere. If you want more jumpy type scares, then you can go on Asylum or The Final Hour. If you want a mixture of all different types and elements of horror, check out the horror houses and some of the other rides. With hindsight, this wasn't my best idea, and while you guys still enjoyed the update, I won't be doing something that relies on the players as much next year. And oh boy, wait till you see what I've got planned for next year! But enough of all the background. You're here to see me explain one of the most dark and depressing stories I've ever written. What better a way to start off the new year? The first thing you need to know about Amusement is that it's a Mr. Smiley attraction. The whole haunted house tells the backstory of who later came to be Mr. Smiley, but if you're a fan of the original, you'll probably know that the whole point of the ride is to confuse you. For example, the hallways and rooms are all strange shapes and sizes, the ride itself is almost physically impossible and extremely unsafe, and the whole point is to make you lose track of where you are and who you are, so you can focus on smiling always. So to stick with that idea of confusing you, the story of Amusement is told out of order. So the beginning of the story may be in the middle of the haunted house, while the end may be at the beginning. This is called a non-linear story, where the story you're watching or listening to doesn't start from the beginning of the character's story. You might join them in the middle or the end of something they're going through and come back to it later. So without further ado, I'm going to take you on a walk through the attraction as any other guest would go through it, and then I'll explain the story in order. Enjoy. We start our story in a house. The bathroom of a child's parents. The year is 1943, and things aren't exactly well in the world. In this bathroom, there is a child, either putting on or taking off makeup. No one can really quite tell, except the child's mother, who is sitting downstairs doing something in the kitchen. The father is out at work, earning what little he can for the struggling family, as times seem more black and terrifying than ever. Bombs fall from the sky as the child's friends and their families rush to shelter in the back garden or under their kitchen tables. The wails of sirens deafen anyone close by as the whole neighborhood panics. But for now, things are calm, and the child continues to put on makeup, unknown to his or her father. The mother encourages the child to be whoever they want to be, no matter who may stare or make fun of them. The mother sat her child down once and said, "We all change. Don't worry. You're going to be amazing." The child had confidence that it wasn't as weird as the other children made it out to be. So the child taught itself how to paint a new face, how to become someone they truly wanted to be. The mother encouraged this, but told the child not to tell its father, knowing he wouldn't take it well. Then, suddenly, the sound of the front door. The mother quickly gets up from her chair, not expecting any visitors. It's the father. He's come home early after his workplace was evacuated due to a possible enemy attack. The child panics and gathers its things while the mother tries to stall the father, who wants to go upstairs for a lie down. "Quickly, quickly! You don't want him to see you like this. He mustn't know, he mustn't." The child hurries to pack away and reset every piece of its mother's makeup before the father gets upstairs. Then, footsteps, heard from outside. The mother continues to try and divert the father's attention from the upstairs. Everything is finally in place, and the child decides to leave. But as the child leaves its parents' bathroom, the father enters the room. Both father and child stare at each other in confusion and disbelief. The mother stands behind the father, hand on shoulder after trying to stop him. The room then erupts with the father's anger. We now go a few months into the future. The house silent. All makeup confiscated, a child terrified, and no mother to be seen. The father sits downstairs in his armchair, watching the new television set.
New flavor, new formula too, means brighter smiles for me and you.
You'll wonder where the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsodent.
Hey there! Do you suffer from misplaced thoughts? Things changing you or a loved one in a negative manner? Don't panic. We've got just the thing for you. Smile Unlimited is dedicated to ensuring you have the best possible outlook on life, whether during your final hour or a family member's, or even if things just don't quite seem right. We help people like you. Smile Unlimited.
The father awoke his child at 5 a.m. the next morning, and rain had begun to flood the empty streets. He told the child to meet him at the front of the house, where his motorcar would wait for him. The child was excited, thinking this was the start of something new. Maybe the father had accepted his ways after all. The child rushed to get dressed, hopped into the motor car, and went with the father. They passed by many strange buildings in an unfamiliar part of town before stopping at a surreal and modern-looking place. They exited the car, and the father grasped his child's hand firmly and pulled him into the building, where the mood changed significantly. The room was small and square. The walls were covered with confusing posters and odd wallpaper. There was a desk, which stood in the center of the room, with a woman sat behind it, her head down. The father approaches the woman and mutters what is unknown to the child as a rectification appointment. The woman then looks up at him, and the father jumps back. Her face, stuck in a permanent, open-mouth smile, with black water emanating from her eyes. This unnerved the child, as strange, futuristic objects on the wall behind the woman seemed to stare and follow them around the room. The father then looks up. The woman understands what he wants. The father then leaves the building as the woman grabs the child firmly by the arm, preventing it from following. The woman then takes the child into an empty room where a dentist's chair stands. The child is powerless, as it's strapped down by multiple other doctors against the chair. When all is done, they leave the room. Silence follows. The room is dark, until the lights activate and almost blind the child with their brightness. Without warning, a whirring sound can be heard, and an oversized syringe filled with a glowing yellow substance moves towards the child. He or she begins crying uncontrollably in fear as the syringe moves closer and closer to piercing her skull. But all of a sudden, the building powers down, and all systems stop in place. This was the child's chance. The child finds a way to get out of the chair and runs through the same door it entered through. Strangely, the child now finds itself in a completely different place to where it was before. Instead of the entrance point, they were now looking over a laboratory from a balcony high above many security guards and doctors, who then began to chase the child. Realizing this, it dashes in the opposite direction as the facility's lights begin to regain power. Explosions can be heard from the distance. Left, right, center. Alarms blare, and security officers shout at the child to stop as parts of the building begin to collapse all around them, and memories of the past flood the child's memory. Eventually, the child finds themselves only downstairs in the same room, after seemingly running for many minutes. Failed experiments surround the child as the security officers capture it, and everything goes silent. And the rest? Well, the rest you can piece together. The child did eventually make it out of the facility, but not as the same person that it was. Everything that once was that person was changed manufactured, packaged, and manipulated into something that the society of the time deemed acceptable. I'd like to leave the story there, as I'd actually like to hear what you think happened after that. Clearly there's no mention of Smile Unlimited in Mr. Smiley's facility, so does that mean it eventually fell? It could have been bombed or shut down. Any number of things could have happened. The father was never heard from again, and after the child was changed into this creature, no one even knows if there's anything human left about it. And there's a very good reason I say it. For the most part, that's out of respect for what Mr. Smiley once was. There are no labels you can give a creature. Mr. Smiley was the child. What's left is nothing more than a creature, designed by a company that's goals were never fully explained. So, at the very end of this story, we find ourselves with more questions than when we began. We know where it came from. We know what its story is. But we barely know who he or she really was. Who was Mr. Smiley? That I'll leave up to you. But if there's anything to take from this story, it's to make sure you continue to be who you want to be. To show everyone, no matter how closed-minded, what a true weirdo can do, and how that can be something fantastic. So, next time you go on Mr. Smiley, or walk past it, remind yourself of what caused all of this. Think to yourself, is that laughter you hear with Mr. Smiley? Or at him? Regardless, we'll never know for sure. All we can do is wonder, and no matter what happens in your life, at any point, just keep smiling. Smiling always.
And the Employee of the Week this week is...
Happy 1906 for this amazing Mr. Smiley outfit.
Thanks for watching this little explanation video. As I mentioned, it is a rather dark way to start 2019, but I wanted to get this out of the way so I can focus on starting up some of my new series. At the moment, I'm running an ongoing competition to see who can take some really nice photos in my new steampunk game, Asavin. All you have to do is take a photo in first person, tweet it at me, and I'll pick one to be featured at the end of one of my videos. The winner this time is SuperJ72, who sent in these two photos, and trust me, this was extremely difficult to decide on, because some of your entries looked absolutely phenomenal. But keep sending me your entries and I'll keep showing them. All social and game links are down below, so I'll see you in the next log entry.